Kim's quintessential guide for quitting smoking. The art of quitting smoking.
You know you're supposed to quit smoking, right? You know there's a health benefit to quitting smoking, that it's bad for you, causes lung cancer, slows you down, increases your blood pressure, basically will kill you. And you know that you're going to save tons of money smoking because you don't have to buy smokes anymore. You don't have to vape anymore. You don't have the other one that nobody thinks about is how much time you save when you don't smoke.
The average cigarette takes 6 minutes to smoke. So if you smoke 10 cigarettes a day, that's a whole hour wasted.
So you want to quit, but you can't because you're addicted. And it's really hard to fight through that addiction. But you know it's possible because there are people who don't smoke and who have quit, like myself. I've quit. I've quit twice. It wasn't easy. So in this video, here are the 3 strategies I used to quit smoking. The second time I quit smoking, I used these 2 strategies in combination. And the first strategy is to reduce bit by bit and to measure my progress. Not to measure my progress for the sake of measurement, but to measure my progress so that I can feel good about having accomplished progress. Because the accomplishment is what really motivated me to continue. Was like, instead of getting dopamine from smoking a cigarette, which was the old way, right? It was to form a new way of getting dopamine, and that is the reward of not smoking. Because cigarette smoking is largely like a habit addiction. So I counted down how many cigarettes I was smoking, from 12 to 11 to 10 to 9, etc. And then I got to about 3. 5 was hard, but 3 was really hard. If you smoke 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 1 before bed, like, that's a long time to go during your day without smoking a cigarette when you want a cigarette because you only have a finite number of cigarettes. And that was the point that I quit. And when I quit, I realized that I might not quit forever at that point. And so I didn't feel bad when I failed to quit. I counted how many days I had quit, how many days I'd gone without smoking any cigarettes at all. And if I caved and I broke and I had to buy some cigarettes and smoke some cigarettes, I tried again. And so this is the first strategy, is to reduce and then measure like the progress so you can feel the accomplishment. It was a very effective strategy. I really enjoyed seeing how well I could perform. It was rewarding. And I did that in combination with this second strategy, which is to add a speed bump to the habit, because I knew that cigarette smoking was largely a habit. And like, if you're a cigarette smoker, you understand this. Is like, you wake up in the morning, you want to have one with your coffee, you want to eat a meal, and you're going to have another one, and then you're going to see certain people, you're going to wait at the bus stop, you're going to finish your meal. Like, every time certain triggers happen, you would just want to have a cigarette. And sometimes it's like an emotional dependency too, which is why I ended up restarting briefly. But the point is that you can introduce like a second habit, because you want to like break the habit entirely so that you no longer have triggers, or if you do get triggered, you perform a new habit instead. And the way I did that was I did push-ups before I smoked. And it was a very effective strategy because I didn't want to do push-ups, for one. So like, I would do push-ups just because I wanted a cigarette. But then, having done the push-ups, I would be panting and out of breath, and then I wouldn't really want to smoke a cigarette anyway because I wanted oxygen, and I knew that like it didn't feel good because your body is just like trying to get more oxygen, and you like choke it out with smoke instead. So those are the 2 strategies that I can recommend if you're trying to quit. My third strategy was the first time I quit, and this was it's like a very intense strategy. Like, I think it will work almost 100% of the time if you can do it, but it requires like a lot of willpower. So you really have to be mentally prepared to do that kind of discipline. And basically, what happened was, it was Ramadan, and I was fasting Ramadan. Whether I'm a Muslim or not is not the point. The point is that you can just do the fast, so you don't have to be Muslim. You can just do the fast. And when you were fasting, that whole day from like sun up to sundown, while you were like empty, when you were in the fasted state, then you don't feel the need for some kind of extra physical satiation, right? Like you become very disassociated from your physical needs because your primary need is actually the hunger. So once you've overcome your desire to eat, the rest of your physical attachments are very much separated from you. You still have them occasionally, maybe, but everybody's different. But when you're in the fasted state, like your body's primary, reward, like its primary drive is to go and find food before it is to go find a cigarette, right? I used to smoke at the end of every fast. So you would fast all day, and then come the night, you would go and smoke a cigarette, or I would go and smoke a cigarette. And one day, I couldn't. I was out on the bench, and I was sitting next to a brother, and he asked me if he could smell my cigarette, and I was like, sure, here, have a cigarette. Do you want one? I'll give you a cigarette, no problem. And he's like, no, I don't want one. I don't smoke. And he's like, but you want to smell one? He's like, yeah, I used to smoke. I'm like, brother, how did you do it? And he told me that the secret was to just not smoke at the end of the night. So you could fast all day for Ramadan and then not want to smoke, no problem. But then not to return to that habit following, iftar, right? After you break your fast. And then all of the physical attachments come back. But because you've already done the fasting, you've already helped your body separate itself from attachments. So that worked for me. I did 28 days of fasting, and I didn't smoke for 28 days, and that was the best I could do. Every other time I tried to quit, I failed. I failed so many times. I failed so many times. Always trying to quit. Always. Every time there's a cigarette, like just whoop. Oh yeah, yeah, I'll have one of those. Oh, it's okay. Just write it off. But in knowing that I could do it for myself, that I could willpower for myself, like have that discipline, it gave me the stepping stones to make the change. I hadn't even read, Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself yet. I didn't read that till last year, and I quit smoking 10 years ago. Well, yeah, the first time 10 years ago, and then again, like, I restarted briefly. Um, Man, anyways, so that's the three techniques I highly recommend. If you were trying to quit, you can measure your progress and feel the accomplishment of making slight changes, right? And then the second one is to speed bump your habit because you want to break the habit entirely. So you have to replace the habit, and you can do both at the same time and hopefully wean yourself that way. And maybe those only worked because I did the fast and I had already successfully quit once. But if you're trying to quit, I highly recommend both of those strategies. And if they're not working, do the fast. If you can fast for 28 days and not smoke for 28 days, you can probably quit smoking too. Thanks for watching.